Welcome into the I-80s Boys podcast. I am Chris. I guess apparently I'm a Saban dick rider, which is perfectly true. I don't even know what this guy is anymore. The green hat, Iowa shirt. But you say UGA super fan. I guess I'm trying to figure this one out, Christian.
Listen, Chris, it's okay. You don't have to hide it anymore, your feelings about Nick Saban. It says it right there. It just says everything that you need to know about you, summarized in 4 words, okay? Intelligently. And everything that you need to know about me is pretty much put right below me.
Yeah. I'm assuming this hard-on that you got right now is probably going to trickle its way right on into the topic that we're going to lead off here with, correct?
You could absolutely imagine that, right? The anticipation for this is palpable over here.
What word did you do? What was that word?
It's palpable, right?
I've never heard it in my life.
Yeah, don't make me spell it because then we've got some issues there.
All right, buddy.
Well, Chris, let's get into this today. I mean, there's something we talked about a while back, and I think we kind of touched on this. We said one Dylan Raiola, right? We said Dylan Raiola, he's potentially going to make his commitment before the season starts. Go ahead, knock it out, get it done. What are your thoughts on it, Chris?
Overall, man, obviously, I'm a Nebraska fan, clearly, and we know he has ties here. I wasn't really shocked that he picked UGA right now. I think my thoughts on this, Christian. There's a lot of season left. I think things are going to change. I think he's probably going to wait personally. I think he finally fucking picked a team and said, hey, you know what? I'm done. He's been kind of the prom queen the last year about where he's going, USC, Nebraska, Georgia. Oh, he's visiting here. 1 week I'm here. Oh, he's visiting here. I think there's so much drama leading up to that. I'll be honest with you. I really personally don't care for that a whole lot, but I think he's going to wait. I think he will not end up at Georgia. I'm going to write this down. I want you to write it down. But I will say this. And it doesn't mean that he's coming to Nebraska. That's not what I'm saying. I think he wants to see what Matt Rule does here first, to see what Caleb Williams is going to be leaving USC next year. I think Georgia was a very good pick, though. Georgia is obviously a very, very good school. I don't think I need to touch on that. You'll let us know how much you think and love Georgia here shortly. But Stetson Bennett is gone. You guys got a couple young quarterbacks over there. I think they're still dueling it out. There's an opportunity. There's a possibility that he does end up there. I'm just saying, I don't get too hyped up on this transfer portal, not transfer portal, but just this whole recruiting thing is just crazy nowadays. Social media, this whole thing, dude. To me, it's blown so far out of proportion anymore. And I'm happy for the kid, man. Wherever he goes, I do think he's going to be a fucking stud. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Chris, if you don't mind, let me ask you a question here. You're not too old over there, are you?
Oh, I'm definitely old.
Okay. I just want to well, yeah, I know, right? I mean, Jesus, you're getting a little older because I think you're forgetting.
Oh boy,
something here, and that's I want to transition you back to something that you said. This was your original thoughts, by the way. Here, I'm gonna kind of come back here. So
I said that he's definitely coming here.
Yeah, but I want you to listen to the temperament that you had. Right, it's a lot different than where we're at now. Just take this give this a listen.
I think he comes here because I think if you listen to the kid talk, he's actually very, very mature for his age. I agree. You get off that Walmart internet over there.
Yeah. You can just imagine, here.
Stafford turned out pretty well.
Hold on one second. My God, we're going to get there. Can't do too many things over here. My computer can't multitask.
Well, clearly neither can you, because I know what I said, Christian.
Oh, what'd you say? What'd you say now?
You are acting like he's just already ending up at Georgia next year. You think he can't pull out and change his mind? I don't get very excited at all about high school highlight tapes. Fuck, Christian, I could look at yours as quarterback and be like, well, that guy looks like he's going to play in the NFL. You know?
Right.
We could say that about anybody, right? Me in high school catching passes and shit like that, playing defense.
All right. My point with it is, Chris, you were very, very excited about this, right? I mean, I think we all were, really. I mean, about this. He's a great prospect, can't miss prospect. You bring up some really interesting points, and I'll go there with you. I'll dance with you, old man. And here's where I'm at with it. I'm not going to say I don't think he ends up at Georgia, but I think that it's just started with this young man. It really has just started with him. Half of the battle was getting him to commit. Because remember, this time last year, he was committed to Ohio State. He was committed to Ohio State this time last year. Now, look, he's committed to Georgia. So you still got to get the kid signed and get him on campus. And there's a long year left until signing day and all of that stuff rolls around, right? It's obviously it's a huge win for Georgia, but here's what I want to look for, right? How active is he going to be on the recruiting trail between now and signing day? If he's very active and he's very public about it, and he's really campaigning to get these guys to come to Georgia, I like our chances. I mean, right?
I would agree with that.
If he sits back and he's very quiet about it, then, I don't think he ends up at Georgia, based off that, right? Not saying he can't. It's just probably not the kind of sign that Kirby normally looks for when he gets kids to commit to him. Here's the big thing, right? Another big thing here. Even if Georgia signs this kid, even if he does, getting him on campus, that's half the battle, right? So you get him on campus. Dude, he's transferred high schools already, man. So he's already transferred high schools. It reminds me a lot of Big Bear Alexander, that whole situation, right? 5-star player, uberly talented, one of the best players in the country, best at his position, comes to Georgia. He's transferred high schools already, comes to Georgia. Georgia was like in the top 3, right? Plays for a year and then hops in the portal. To me, I could see that 100% happening. And I don't think that really matters where he goes. I mean, I think part of it's you go somewhere, you sit, you drive your NIL valuation up, then you go to where you ultimately want to go, which could be Nebraska, right? Maybe he does want to go to Nebraska, but he wants to let them kind of get built up before he gets there. That could be the long game with it. Another big thing that I kind of see, with Dylan Raiola in this situation that I think is got to be interesting here is you got to look at Georgia and Kirby Smart in particular's ability of how they've handled 5-star quarterbacks in the past. I mean, you go all the way back to Jacob Eason. He got hurt. Jake Fromm took over for him, didn't give the job back. Then they bring in Justin Fields. Fields didn't, start. He played a little bit, and then I don't think it's that he didn't beat out Jake Fromm. I just think that it's he wasn't given the opportunity to beat Fromm out, right? So because of that, Fields transfers to Ohio State. Then you look at JT Daniels. JT Daniels came in, took over the reins, was the number 1 player in his class, or number 1 quarterback at least in his class. 5-star athlete, comes in, lights the world on fire. I mean, was undefeated as a starter, gets hurt, and then they give the job to Stetson Bennett. Don't look back from there. Transfers to West Virginia, last year. Then you look at this year, even as recent as this year, you have Brock Vandergriff, who was a perennial 5-star player. Now, he was kind of a lot like Arch Manning in that he played in a private school league, and so there was a lot of question marks there about, some of the competition he faced and how would that translate to this level. And I think that might be on display right now. But other than that, he was, right after spring, I mean, he was rumored to be in the portal. I mean, I thought it was a foregone conclusion he would jump in there. And there's still time yet. I don't think he can jump in right now, but we're going to have to see how things play out. My whole point with this is, when you look at Kirby and Georgia and their ability with 5-star quarterbacks, the track record isn't necessarily great. Would it surprise me if he showed up and then 4-star quarterback Gunnar Stockton ended up starting because he's been there for 2 or 3 years, here in a couple of years? No, would not shock me at all.
No, and I guess my big thing is I'm not disagreeing with your logic there with Georgia and their history or anything. I'm just not. I mean, yeah, am I hyped up about the kid? Sure, I still have the same hype, but until it's all said and done, dude, that's fine. Kid was committed to Ohio State last year. Now he's committed to Georgia. Actually, I like my odds. Next year, he'd probably be committed to Nebraska. And I think he's just waiting. I think it's more of just like, here, I'm tired of the drama. I'm tired of talking about it. Family's tired of getting asked questions. I can only imagine being a top, like the top recruit in your class in high school in this day of age with social media and all that bullshit. Like, I honestly think that's like, wait and see. We'll see what Georgia does this year. Let's see what Nebraska does this year with Matt Rule. We're definitely going to be in need of a quarterback next year. You know, USC, I still think they're kind of in the mix. It's Lincoln fucking Riley, man. And if you're a quarterback, God, you want to play there because they got all the Heisman Trophy winners under him and all that other BS. I'm not really that it didn't really shock me, I guess. Georgia's the number one team in the country. They have been for the last couple of years now. So if you're a high recruit, why not want to come there? And you said the perfect thing. If his buddies start jumping in, then I'd be a little more worried, like personally me as a Nebraska fan.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You could only imagine what it's like to be a top prospect in your class. I mean, that's all right. You know, I know high school's a long time ago for you, but you know, it's all right, buddy.
Yeah, yep. But I'm going to show you a little bit about high school athletics here shortly. So,
just you wait. I'm free and clear, Chris. I had to pass a medical exam, not a physical. I know that might not to be confused there. I did not take a physical for this shit.
Okay, because I was a little worried. I'm like, I don't know if you can pass that physical or not.
Yeah, it wasn't a physical or wasn't a prostate exam, so we can rule those two things out. So if I tear a hamstring, then just know I did not prepare for this. No, Chris. Well, I mean, let's get into the meat of the show here. I know, we like to take a team and kind of dissect them here a little bit. Chris, let's jump into it here. A little Pitt Panther preview here. Chris, what are your thoughts on the Panthers this year?
They're interesting. And I believe I don't remember exactly which team. We've talked about several teams this year. If not, kick it back in some of our other episodes here. But I think it was Florida State. Maybe it was Florida State. I can't remember. But I said, Pitt was a team that I'm never like. They're one of those teams to me that they never suck. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like they've always been prominent. I'm not saying they're winning national titles, obviously, but they're always in the mix. They're a good football school. They really are. They put out some studs lately. Kenny Pickett. I mean, they put out Jordan Addison, who actually played there. I know he played for USC last year. Just got drafted this year in the draft, but they put out people. Man, they've had Aaron Darnold, James Conner. They've had a lot of studs go through that program, especially in the NFL. So I always think Pitt is like, I don't think of them. I hate to say this. I don't think of them as like a Nebraska. I think of them as like a Penn State or a Wisconsin, a little bit more in the top tier of the conference every year. Pitt this year, what they go, Christian, last year, I believe was 8-4, 5-3 in conference, something like that.
9-4 last
9
year.
And 4. Okay. Sorry. Thanks, Stat Whore. Anyway, no, I as far as this preview goes, man, and I think we'll dig through the schedule here shortly. I actually think they got a pretty favorable schedule to do something this year, and I don't think they're going to be trash. I actually think that they get a few pieces back again. I know they like to run the football. What is it? Narduzzi, I believe, is their head coach there. He's been around for a while. I mean, the guy can coach. He's not a new dude. Been around the game for a long time, man. I like Pitt's chances as far as being relevant this year. I think we'll dig a little bit deeper into that here shortly. Christian, what's your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Panthers?
Man, Pat Narduzzi, he's been around for a hot minute. He's kind of helped, get Pitt back to that sort of constant level there in the ACC. I thought he had a pretty good rebound season last year, right? And the reason why I say that, the reason why I say a rebound season is because they were coming off of the Kenny Pickett, Mark Whipple era, right? So to come off that and still go 9-4, because you had one of the best quarterbacks in college football, you had one of the best offenses in college football, the best offensive coordinator,
that year too,
best wide receiver. To lose all that and to kind of come back and still go 9-4, man, that's a hell of a job, for him. Speaking of Whipple, Chris, looks like Narduzzi, he took some parting shots at Whipple last year in the offseason. He said, maybe if we'd have ran the ball a little more, Kenny Pickett wouldn't have been hurt, towards the end of the season. and he said that obviously after Whipple had left. I think he won this whole thing between him and Whipple. I think he's obviously coming out of this the winner. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
No, 100%. You know my thoughts about Mark Whipple. If you don't, I think that guy's a fucking stooge. He was here at Nebraska too. There's a lot of issues. We all know about the Scott Frost and him and over the play calling duties and that crap. But Whipple to me was, I don't know, the guy, and I know people that played in the program had to play under him, all kind of said the same thing, dude. He's kind of an asshole. But Narduzzi, man, you couldn't have had a better year than you did last year, man. I would take a 9-4 season. Yeah, I think most programs would, right? And that's losing Kenny Pickett. That's losing Jordan Addison in their defense. They lost a lot of players off that team last year or 2 years ago, and they're competitive last year. I actually think this year, man, they're kind of like one of those sleeper teams to me, and I think we'll break that down here shortly. But I kind of like my chances with Pitt, dude. I really truly do.
Yeah, the thing with Whipple is he's not a first year guy. Like, he's not going to come in, and he really only had like 1 year because it was a make or break year for Frost. So for me on this, Whipple was put in a bad spot. I think if he was given 2 or 3 years, I think Nebraska could have had a top 25 offense personally. Right? Wow. I think they could have been. I think they could have been good if he would have been given time. I'm not saying take personal stuff out of it. Take getting wrecked by Michigan on the sidelines out of it. I mean, I'm pretty sure he passed away after that. Rest in peace.
No, he did. He was in a wheelchair.
But no, I think the reality of it is, look, Pitt did fall though last year. They fell outside the top 10 offensively. They fell down to they were number 50th in total offense last year, right? But let me explain why this concerns me. Okay, this kind of concerns me because if you think of the top teams and the top coaches, year in and year out, right? Think about like Georgia's defense, Tennessee or USC's offense, right? And every year they lose how many people, how many coaches, and they still find ways to stay relevant and reload. Georgia's defense, that defense that have won 2 championships, most of those guys are gone. Right? Good chunks of those guys are gone.
Yeah, they're on the Eagles.
Yeah, damn right they are. But they still find a way to be good. Same thing with Tennessee. I mean, I don't think Tennessee's going to miss too much of a beat with Hooker off to the NFL. They're going to figure out a way to keep it rolling. And that's how if you want to be good, right, you have to figure out a way to keep that consistency, especially on the offensive side of the ball in the ACC. Chris, I think the big thing about this too, last year they had USC transfer Caden Slovis, right? He only played 1 year with them, put up 2,400 yards, 10 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He's gone. He transferred to BYU, right?
Good luck.
Yeah. So, I mean, he transferred out to BYU. He didn't have the worst season, but didn't have a lights-out season either, right, that a lot of people were expecting. Now, in comes Boston College quarterback and Notre Dame quarterback Phil Dracovic.
Yep.
Right now, he's been all hype, right? He's been all hype since starting his career at Notre Dame, dude.
Oh, 100%. He's been around a while. I mean, he transfers every year to somewhere.
The man's approaching Stetson Bennett territory.
Yes, he is.
Hopefully, he graduates though. We need to see him. I want to see him wow us this year, dude. He needs to wow and show me something, right? Because he's been extremely marginally average up to this point.
I would say even below that. I mean, he was, if I'm not mistaken, man, he was pretty high recruited too out of high school. I know I'm not getting into the whole stars thing, but yeah, I don't know, man. I'm so anti changing teams right and left all the time. Like, again, I keep saying the word NFL free agency is like what it is in college football now, and I just hate it because people are bouncing around all over the place. But is he a good quarterback? Is he good enough in this system, in this team? Yeah, I think he, like you said, average. Maybe he has a breakout year, dude. We don't know. I'm like I said, Narduzzi isn't a trash can for a coach. So they run the football. Pitt's always been to me more of a run heavy, power style football team. Always in my mind, anyway, just over the years. But
yeah,
I think they're going to be fine there. I think he can get the job done. I just don't think he has to go throw for like Kenny Pickett numbers. Kenny Pickett's numbers that year were fucking insane, dude. They threw the ball over the place, and a lot of that was Whipple. He likes to throw the football. Trust me, I know. I'm a Nebraska fan, so. But yeah, go ahead.
I'd still like to see him put up close to about 3,500 yards this year, and then put up somewhere about 20 plus touchdowns.
Right? Yeah, that's a good team all season.
Yeah, that to me, that keeps you competitive. I think in the ACC if you do that.
Right. No.
And you.
Sorry, you said that perfectly. Interject there, but like you're perfect. ACC, right? Depends on what conference you're playing in, as well. ACC is a little more offense than like the Big 12 or the Big 10, the SEC. You know what I mean? So ACC, you're gonna have to put up some points in the ACC. That's just how it is. That's usually most of the teams that are up there with like the Florida States and all those guys of the world. They're a little more flashy. I don't want to compare them to the Big 12 or the Pac-12, but you're exactly right. Conference play has a little bit something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, and you brought it up too. I mean, the backfield, you talked about the running backs they have come through there. I mean, this year they're going to be led by Rodney Hammond Jr., as well as LSU transfer. He was a running back and a safety at LSU, Derek Davis Jr. Yeah, so he played on both sides of the ball. Yep. I mean, the big thing is, those guys have got to step up, kind of help lead you and get this thing going, get you a couple games and then kind of keep it rolling, right? Receiving threats this year, they're going to bring back Kanata Mumfield, Bub Means, and Gavin Bartholomew. Okay, so those are going to be the guys that are going to kind of lead this charge. And they also landed a Florida transfer, Dejon Reynolds, to play the slot for them. So that's going to be good. Offensive line, to me, this is a big part of it. They're returning a bunch of production on the offensive line. So they should be pretty solid on that offensive line. So, the bread and butter for me, though, defense. I think to me that's where they are going to be still really sound this year, even though they're losing a lot of front seven guys. I mean, this was a defense last year, Chris, that only gave up 30-plus points 3 times last year. That's pretty damn good.
No, and that's what Pitt reminds me of, that old school mentality, right? And I mean that, and if people don't know what I mean by that is run the ball on offense the majority of the time, smash mouth football on the other side, right? We're going to fucking hit you in your mouth. Defense is going to be top 20, 25 in the nation. That's what Pitt reminds me of. And that's why I think they're scary for most teams, because they're a little bit different. They're kind of like that Utah in the Pac-12, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they absolutely are. To me, we were talking about some of the players that they're losing. I mean, and just that defense. I mean, they ranked 23rd last year in total team defense, right? So, I like to look at the up front, their defensive line. Whenever I start looking at teams' defenses, they've got Dayon Hayes and David Green. Okay, they're coming back this year, but they're going to have to step up because they're losing Kalijah Clancy and Alexandre, I think it's right. They're both gone, so those are both guys that had 5 sacks for you that you're going to have to replace. They're getting some good linebacker depth back, and Simon and Kamara. The Shield wasn't bad for him last year either. I think the best part of this entire defense, dude, maybe even this team, is going to be their secondary this year.
I was just going to say that, man. We bring a lot of experience back, dude. If you got a great secondary, what's that mean for your front four? You know what I mean? That's where you get that pressure. That's where you get those sacks. That's huge. Ask Nebraska 2 years ago when we had Cam Taylor-Britt, Boodle, those guys, right? These guys have been starting for like literally 4 years. That's why we were in all those games, right? I mean, a lot of that was because our offense sucked too, but those guys could cover. You know what I mean? Like, and they kind of remind me of, honestly, I hate to say this, but like, not to make a comparison, but like, man, Pitt's defense this year should be. I'd be surprised if they're not top 15, not top 20 this year, honestly.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how they finish the year up. I mean, I think they're going to be a really solid team to look out for in the ACC this year. With that being said, Chris, are you about ready here to jump into this and get into their actual record prediction?
Let's do it.
Let's do this here. It's going to be interesting to see, where they're at. Let me pull up here their schedule for you real fast. Okay, so there we go. There's their schedule right there. Chris, what are your thoughts overall? How do you think they're going to do this year?
Here, I'll run through my thoughts here real quickly. Obviously, the first 2 games I'm not too worried about. I know Cincinnati is in the AAC, and they should be better than what they were last year, but I'm not scared with that. West Virginia, just not enough there yet under I can't think of the coach's name right now. Just not enough there to scare me too much. North Carolina to me is a little freaky. They put up points. Drake May, who I am fucking incredibly high on. That game is a question mark for me a little bit just because I'm very high on Mac Brown. I've always been a big Mac Brown guy. But moving on, Virginia Tech, not real scared. Louisville's a team I know, Christian, we've done a little talking about them a little bit. I know you like them a little bit more than I do. But Wake Forest without Sam Hartman, nah. There's the tough two. Notre Dame, Florida State. I mean, those are back-to-back. I don't know. I don't think Pitt. I think Pitt can play with Notre Dame. I don't know about Florida State. That's a little hairy. And then you end the season off with Syracuse, Boston College, Duke. I see Pitt at about a 9-3 this year. And that's not a bad season. It's not a bad season. I don't care if somebody wants to dispute that, please let me know, but it's not a bad year. I think the North Carolina game is 50-50 there. Notre Dame, I think, is 50-50. Florida State, I don't think they beat Florida State. I'm very high on Florida State this year. And they're going to lose one game they probably shouldn't, right? We always say that. There's always that close game. We saw it a couple times last year with Ohio State and some of those other teams. Georgia, they came into Missouri, dude. That game was a hell of a lot closer, Christian, I think, than you wanted last year. It just happens, right? So yeah. I'm going to go 9-3, Christian. I would like to hear your thoughts, and I'm sure you're going to let me know.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, we're not too far apart there, Chris. I've got them going 8-4. I think they come out with losses against North Carolina, Louisville, Notre Dame, and Florida State. To me, that's where I've got them at. I think that, everybody else, they're more than capable of beating. You said it best. I mean, Wake Forest loses Sam Hartman, so that's a big loss right there for them. Syracuse, I mean, it just depends on what year you're playing them. I mean, Syracuse can have these scary good teams, and you'll never know it. They're kind of like Northwestern. They're either really good or not good at all.
Bad. Yep.
So, plus they got Phil Dracovic, again, Boston College transfer. So I'd like to think that they could beat Boston College. And again, Duke, I mean, they had a great season last year, but I think this year, they end the year off, they're going to get the whoop down on them. So.
Yep. No, and just to finish this up, Christian, I don't think we really got to touch too deep on these. It's just, a 9-3 season though, man. I'll take a 9-3 season every year, man. That's fine. I mean, right now I'm talking about just me being a personal Nebraska fan, but like 9-3 ain't bad, man. Florida State, I think we all know. I think they're top 4 right now. Is the AP preseason poll. They're going to be tough, man. And I know rankings don't mean everything preseason. Don't get me wrong. I agree with that. But Notre Dame's going to be tough, man. I actually think Pitt will play Notre Dame really tough, though. I truly, truly do. We all know the West Virginia game, the what they call it, the backyard brawl. I mean, that's our big rivalry. That's always a close game, so they could lose that too. But I think Pitt's going to have a solid year, man. I mean, they got some pieces in on offense, but man, their defense to me, you touched on it, Christian. I do truly appreciate you bringing that up. Is that fucking defense should be really solid this year? And if you have a great defense, Christian, you can be in any game. We know that as Nebraska fans a couple of years ago, going 3-9 or whatever the hell it was. I think we had the most like 4-point or less, losses ever in the season. We had like 8 of them, so like it could keep you in games. And I think Pitt's got a chance this year. If Phil does a decent enough job at the QB position, man, I think that's kind of their key indicator, whether they maybe do go like a 10-2 or something crazy like that versus maybe a 7-5 or an 8-4 season.
Yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, what Pitt does this year. So, well, Chris, you ready for your favorite topic that we bring up, I feel like, every week here on the show?
I fucking love it, man. Let's do it.
All right. Hot take. Miami beats both Florida State and Clemson this year.
Not a fucking chance. And I'm going to leave it right there. That's my quick hot take right there. I already pissed off enough Florida fans, apparently, with my comments a few pods ago. Look, Miami, you think Miami college football, you think national titles, you think 90s, 2000s, you think 80s. man, they haven't. They're a little bit like Nebraska in a way. I'm going to piss some people off with that too, probably the Miami fans, but they really haven't had much, Christian, which is kind of weird to me. They haven't had a coach be there longer than like 4 years now. The last how many? I don't know. I just touched on FSU. I think they're going to be great this year with Jordan Travis back there. And I think Clemson's going to be a hell of a lot better. I'm a big Dabo Swinney fan. I love that guy. There's just no way, in my opinion, Christian. I'll kick it right back over to you, and you can tell me why I'm wrong, I guess.
Well, I don't think you're wrong at all. I don't think there's any way they beat. And I'm going to say this. I pissed off a lot of Florida State fans. So when we clip this out, I just want you to know right now, if you're a Florida State fan, I apologize because I was looking at things from one perspective, and that was, Florida State leading up to this point, right? I think when I start to take a look back, and I'm looking at Florida State, I'm going to get back to Miami here in a second. I think Florida State can definitely run away with the ACC this year. I definitely do. They've got a lot of things going really well for them. So I'm going to walk back some of my comments that I've said up until this point. Do I think they beat LSU? No. But do I think that they make a run in the ACC? Absolutely. Right? So I'll say that. Clemson, getting back into this here, I think Clemson's got, they've got some question marks at the quarterback position and just, throughout the rest of their team. This could be a weird year for Clemson, one of those kind of rebuilding type years where it's just kind of figuring it out. They've kind of had that, here lately since Trevor Lawrence has left. They've had some highly touted quarterbacks, but they just haven't. It just seems weird. They've been missing pieces at different spots, and it just hasn't been the typical Clemson that we've seen. I think Miami can definitely beat Clemson. I don't think they take Florida State, though, right? That's my take on it. I'll kind of break it down a little bit further here for you. Look, Mario Cristobal is doing a great job at recruiting. I mean, he's kind of a couple of years behind Norvell, I think, but he's doing a great job at recruiting. To me, who he reminds me of, Chris, they remind me a lot of, they're the Penn State of the ACC.
Yeah. Yep.
They're not on that same level yet. Penn State is like the third best team in the Big Ten, right? They kind of have the misfortune of being behind Michigan and Ohio State. And if they did away with the divisions, I don't even know then if they would still be in the top two. To me, Cristobal is kind of like James Franklin. He's a great coach, I think. He's going to do good things. But at a certain point, you want to see them rise to the top there and be able to kind of get ahead of Florida State and Clemson. It's a very tough ask this year, and that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to beat both these teams to make it to the ACC championship game, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't see that happening this year. I mean, you said it. Cristobal's done a good job of recruiting. He's always been a great recruiter, though. I don't think Miami has a problem getting fucking talent, man. You're down in that fucking pool down there in Florida where, I mean, there's just talent everywhere. Miami does have a historic name. I think we all know that. I mean, it just, to me, and I want to look at the schedule here real quick, and I just pulled it up on my computer here, but they got A&M, right? And that's a school that we've touched on. A&M. I'm not super high on them, but they're going to be tough, right? That one's not easy. I know that the question is, does Miami beat both these guys this year? And they could, lose every fucking game and play these two teams tough. That could happen, but I just don't see, like, looking through the schedule, North Carolina and some of these other teams, it's going to be tough. I mean, they got a relatively tough schedule. It's like they're going to be in dogfights most weeks. And when it comes to FSU and Clemson, who I honestly think is 1 and 2 over there, I just don't see it happening this year, Christian. I think they're like you said, a very good comparison is kind of like Penn State, right? It's always Michigan, Ohio State, they're just the fucking top dogs. Penn State is always that, just trying to get into the dance. You know what I mean? But they can't quite crack it. And I think that's kind of where Miami's at. And Miami's actually had worse probably struggles than Penn State has at times. They also get a lot of talent in there too, and I think that's starting to bother people down there. You know what I mean? It's not like Miami doesn't put out fucking people in the NFL because they do. It's a combination of both to me. And overall, like I said, I don't think there's any chance they play with either of them. Not even Clemson. I think Clemson's a way better program.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, again, we'll have to see, man. Like I said, it's going to be.
What I love about this though, time will tell.
Time will tell, right? Money talks, bullshit walks, as they say.
Yeah. Well, this guy.
Well, Chris, I mean, we're hitting the 36-minute mark here. I think this was a fantastic show back that we've done. It's been a couple weeks, or about a week or so, since we've done something. So to me, I think this is a good sort of warm up show for us. Final thoughts. What do you want to say to everybody?
Hey, I just appreciate the support. Like I said, we've been gone for a little bit here, right, Christian? Busy. We got families. We got things going on. It's summertime. Not a lot going on. Really, other we did a lot coming into those spring games, and I think we touched on those enough. There's a lot of time yet. I mean, there isn't a lot of time yet before college football starts. I think me and Christian are really ready to take off and really start, deep diving into this stuff, get the transfer portal, people where they're at, and really start going, Christian. I think we got a lot coming up on this channel, man. And I hope everybody starts tuning in, man, and subbing, and we're going to be all right here. It's just kind of a weird period right now. College football, it keeps changing every year because of the transfer portal and everything going on. You see one thing one day and then you hear something the next, and kids bouncing all over the place. And I think Christian and I know that. And like I said, man, I don't have a lot else to add. I just appreciate the support. We're gonna start ramping it up here, though.
Yes, sir. So we'll catch you guys on Saturday. Okay.